Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this picture. Food photography has its own challenges. Inserting a narrative into the composition is just one. In this image I have added a shaft of light leading to an apparently floating subject. This all contributes to making the finished image more interesting to the viewer. And in this video I'll show you exactly how I did it. Okay, so what I've got set up so far are these croissants on this table, and I've just put them on this small breadboard. Now I'm going to have another one as well, which we're going to make appear to float. But at the moment it's attached to this lab stand via a skewer. So that's going to be our subject. The other thing that I've got set up at the moment is this background. So this is just a roll of seamless paper, and I've just supported that on this C-stand. So onto the camera, I'll be using this medium format camera with an 80mm lens on the front of it. So that's roughly the equivalent of a 50mm lens on a full frame digital camera. Okay, this is tethered into Capture One software, so it's easy to follow along and see the results as I get them. So I'm just going to place that at the front here somewhere. So we'll just turn the camera on. I'll just put the viewfinder up. There we go. So with the camera being turned on, you can now see all the settings that I have on the camera on the software here. So it's in full manual mode. At the moment I have a shutter speed of 125th of a second. That's the flash sync speed for this particular camera. 100 ISO, and I have an aperture set of f8. That's about halfway through the range. Right, so with all that done, what I'll do is just focus up the image. So just looking through the viewfinder, so it's about there somewhere, I think. So with that now done, and with no flash set yet, what I can do is just grab an image just as a test, just to make sure that I don't get any contamination from the house lights. So we can see from that there is a slight ghost of an image, but nothing too serious. So I think now any light which I add will be the only light which actually affects the subject. So to set the first light, what I want to do is light this predominantly from one side, and to do that I'm going to use this softbox. This is a 4 foot by 1 foot softbox, and I'm using this because in this direction it will give me a very soft light because it's 4 feet long. But in this direction, widthwise, it's actually only a foot long, so that will give me a harder light. So by placing that about here somewhere, and I may well feather it as well, just to make this appear narrower from the subject's point of view. And what that will do is bring out the texture in this particular subject. Okay, so let's get it in place and see what happens. Okay, so you should be able to see that I've placed this so that most of the light is actually just in line with the subject. And I've also, like I mentioned before, just feathered it slightly towards the camera. So from the subject's point of view, from this direction, this actually appears slightly narrower than it actually is. And that will just help bring out that texture. It will also keep this light off the background. Okay, so with all that set, what I'm going to do, just at an arbitrary energy level, I'll grab an image and we'll just see what we get. Okay. There we are. So that doesn't actually appear too bad as a starting point for the exposure. Obviously my light is slightly in the wrong place. So what I'm going to do is just move that ever so slightly just to see if we can get that out of the picture. Okay, so having moved that, I'll grab another image and see what it's like now. There, that's better. I'm still getting a little bit of flare, but I can address that later on. Okay, But besides the flare, which is just affecting this side of the image, I think the contrast overall is a little too high. So what I want to do is just fill in this side of the subject. And to do that, I'm just going to use a flag. So here I have just a piece of card, which I've clamped to a piece of wood. I'm just going to place this here so that I can recycle some of the light from here off the card and back onto the subject again. Hopefully. We'll give that a go and see what it looks like. There we are, that's lifted it up a bit. So this is what we had before, and this is what we've got now. So I think that's all coming along very nicely. Okay, so with all that set, next thing would be to address the background. Now in the original image, I had a shaft of light coming down onto the subject. Now in order to do that, I'm going to use this studio flash, and I'm just going to place this about here somewhere. We'll just put that up in the air a little. There we are. So the idea of this light is that it will just glance across the background paper here, and because this isn't a new roll of paper, it's a little crinkly, it should bring out some texture in it. But again, just at an arbitrary energy level, we'll just grab an image and see what it looks like. There we are. So it's possibly a little bright at the moment, but we'll see how that goes. And you can see in here that we've actually brought out quite a lot of the texture in the surface of the paper. But it's very bland. It's all the way across the whole piece of paper, which is not what I want. What I'm going to do is actually flag off part of the light so that it just leaves me with a beam going across the background. Okay, so I've just got this C stand here, and what I'm going to do is just put the arm up like this. I'll just make that parallel with the background. And now this will give me a platform that I can put some card on just to flag part of the light off. So here I have some pieces of card, and I'm just going to place these on the top here, something like that. Another one here, and I'm leaving a gap here so that I'll end up with a beam of light going across the background, hopefully. So we'll just place all those like that. I will need just to flag this area off as well, so I'll just put a piece of cloth on here. There we are. So with all that in place, what I can do now is just give that a try and just see what it looks like. Okay, so I think for a first attempt, that's not too bad at all. I've got the shaft of light. It's not quite in the right place yet, but it's not far off. So I'll just adjust the gap, and that should make the beam slightly wider and hopefully in the right place that I want it. Okay, so having adjusted that, what I can do now, grab another image and see what I get next time. There, that seems to be much better. This is much more the sort of thing that I want. So this is what I had before, and this is what I've got now. Okay, so with that done, there's one or two of the little bits that are a bit niggly. I think this area down here is possibly a little bit too bright. So once again, I'm just going to use a card flag just to flag that part off. So what I'm going to do is just put this in here and hopefully just lean that up against the light. That should be enough just to darken this area down a little. So we'll just give that a try and see what happens. Yes, that seems to have worked. So this is the area that I was concerned about, and that's what it was before, and this is what it is now. So it's a bit more controlled. Now I think overall I could just, having seen the whole thing in one go, up the energy in this light, possibly by one stop. So I can just do that from the camera control here. So I'll just bring up the flash control, select that light and just add one stop to it. There we go. And just with that, I'll just grab an image and see what it looks like this time. Yes, that's lightened up all this. It's possibly a little too bright, I'll have to see. It's difficult to tell with all this flare in the way. So in order to address all this flare, what I'm going to do is just use this piece of card and I'm just going to hold it in here just to flag off that light and hopefully stop the flare. So I'll just make sure that it's not in the image. So about there somewhere. There we are, that seems to have worked quite well. Oh yes, so that has increased the contrast quite markedly. So this is what we had before, and this is what I've got now. So that was done just with the aid of this piece of card. Okay, so for consistency what I'm going to do is just place this on a stand so that it's always the same. One of the things about doing this type of photography where you're going to end up with, in effect, a composite image, I'm going to remove this at some point so that I end up with a clean background so that I can combine the two to get rid of the stand. I'll come back to that in a bit. But the idea of doing that is that you're going to need to have two images which are, in lighting terms, very consistent. So what I'm going to do is just pop this on here, and just with a couple of clips, I'll just clip this on, and then it will be in exactly the same place for both images. There we go. So I'll just make sure it's in the right place. I'll just look through the viewfinder. So I'll just grab an image just to make sure. Okay, so that's completely out of view, which is just what I want. Right, so now it's just time to remove the floating object, and that will then give me the opportunity to get a blank slate of just the background. So what I'm going to do is very carefully, without moving any of the flags or any of the lights, just take this out of the picture, like so. And with that removed, I'll just grab another image. There we are. And that has now given me this clean background, which is what I want. Okay, so with those two images now captured, it just remains to go into Photoshop and combine them together. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and I've loaded up the two images that I captured earlier. So this is the main one with all three subjects in there. And then this is the one where I removed the stand and the floating object. So the first job would be just to combine those together. And the way I'm going to do that is to make a stack of those two images. So I'm just going to go to File, come down to Scripts, load files into Stack. Ask it to add the open files, and at this point I'll also ask it to attempt to automatically align, just to make sure everything's in the same place. We'll just click on OK. There we are, and now Photoshop has made me a new file which is a stack of those two, and they are both on different layers. So if I just go onto the top one here and just turn the visibility on and off, these ones at the bottom here shouldn't move at all, which is exactly what we want. Excellent. So that's all worked very well. So the next thing to do would be just to get rid of all the bits that I don't want, the stand and the skewer, etc. So the way to do that is I'm just going to go onto the top image here, and I'm going to add a layer mask. And I'm just going to invert that mask, so that will hide everything which is on that layer. So now I just need to bring back where the croissant is. So in order to do that, I just need to paint in that on white. So make sure that white is selected as the foreground colour. Select a paintbrush, that's possibly a little big. So we'll make that a little smaller and a little harder. There we are. And now I can just bring back the croissant, like so. And it doesn't matter if I bring back part of the stand as well, I can always zoom in and just get rid of that. Okay, so I'll just zoom into this area. There we are. So make the brush a bit smaller and quite a lot harder. And as I now need to mask that, what I'm going to do is just change from white to black. And now I should be able to just get rid of that last little piece. And as I get much closer to the actual subject, I just need to be a bit more careful. There we are. So with that all done, what I can do is just zoom back out again. And we're very nearly done, I think. I need to just have a look at a suitable crop and just tidy up the edges. So I'll just use the cropping tool. Now I'm using a specific ratio of 16:9 as I'll be using this for video, but obviously you need to pick something which is going to complement your particular subject. So what I'm going to do is just move that in a little like that. There we are. I'll just click on OK. And now just to tidy up these edges, I'm just going to add another layer. And on this layer, I'm simply going to paint black just to tidy up the very sides. So making sure that black is selected as the foreground colour. Pick a paintbrush again. This time I'm going to make it quite large and very soft. There we are. And I'll just paint down the sides here. And the same on the other side. I can just clean that part of the image up as well. And there we have it. So with a few fairly simple lighting techniques, I've been able to add some interest to this subject and also add a little narrative to the whole thing. And I think overall that has worked rather well. Okay, well I hope you liked watching how I made that image, and if you like watching these sort of things, do click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and hit the like button. Thank you very much for watching.